afternoon to all participants in this online session of the International Congress of Apollonia University from Iași. In the next few minutes, I will keep your attention with some results obtained in our study entitled Chitosan-based hydrogel loaded with anti-inflammatory drug for local treatment of periodontitis. This study is part of an experimental demonstration project started last year. The research activities are carried out in partnership with the Petroponi Institute of Macromolecular Chemistry, which is also the coordinator of the project. Periodontal disease is a common microbial infection which is characterized by the destruction of periodontal tissue that, when left untreated, will lead to tooth loss, phonetic and aesthetic problems. Microorganisms such as bacteria stick to the surface of the tooth and in the pocket surrounding the tooth, and they multiply. The periodontal pocket provides an ideal environment for the growth and proliferation of anaerobic pathogenic bacteria. Several periodontal diseases may result in tooth loss and also can increase the risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Different treatment modalities were attempted, including surgical intervention, mechanical therapy, and the use of pharmacological agents like antibiotics. Topical application of antimicrobial agents and local drug delivery is also a treatment option. Local drug delivery releases the drug at high concentration at the site of infection, thus leading to a targeted delivery, increased bioavailability, self-administration, and reduced side effects. Furthermore, this is an option in patients where there is intolerance to systemic administration of the antibiotics. Consequently, great efforts have been undertaken to minimize drug-related side effects and improve patient compliance. In this context, the main objective of our study was to obtain a new biomaterials based on chitosan and polyvinyl alcohol hydrogel with an anti-inflammatory drug as local drug delivery system for periodontitis treatment. Hydrogels was obtained according to the experimental program presented in the table. Appropriate amount of chitosan and polyvinyl alcohol were dissolved separately, and after they complete dissolution, the solution were mixed. To give some elasticity to the hydrogels, glycerol was added to the polymer solution. The specific amount of glutaraldehyde required to cross-link the free amine and hydroxyl group was added dropwise with vigorous stirring over the polymer solution. After homogenization, the magnesium sulfate solution was added, stirring further. The mixture obtained was then carefully transferred into silicone forms. For drying, the samples were placed in the oven at 30 degrees Celsius. After drying, the hydrogels were stored in desiccator. The schematic representation of the reaction that takes place between the two polymers can be observed in the figure. The structural characteristics of the obtained hydrogel were highlighted by FTIR spectroscopy. The obtained spectra are presented in the figure. The absorption band between 2,652 and 2,928 cm to -1 corresponds to the carbon-hydrogen bonds in the alkyl groups. The absorption band around 1,732 can be associated with the stretching vibration of the carbon-oxygen group in PVA. The absorption band from 1,032 and 1,071 can be attributed to the acetal group formed by cross-linking the PVA with glutaraldehyde. The absorption peak from 618 found in the spectra of sample 25 and 27 can be attributed to the group sulfate, which highlights the ionic cross-linking between the functional group of chitosan and magnesium sulfate. Also, the appearance of the peak at 1032 in the spectrum of the sample 26 can be attributed to the imine group, which reveal the covalent cross-linking between glutaric aldehyde and chitosan. The hydrogel morphology was evaluated using scanning electron microscopy. The surface of the hydrogel has homogeneous and porous structure, the pore being small and irregular in size. The presence of the crosslinker in the hydrogel's composition has the effect of obtaining a rough surface, sample 23 and 25. Rough surface appearance is attenuated by reducing the amount of crosslinker, so that the hydrogel without crosslinker have a smooth surface, like sample 29. Also, it was observed that for the sample where the amount of PVA in the polymer mixture is higher, sample 31, the surface appearance is more compact, the roughness decreasing slightly. The swelling degree of hydrogels in slightly alkaline environment with pH 7.4 was evaluated by gravimetric method. The swelling kinetics of hydrogels show that the concentration of the crosslinking agent, the type of crosslinking, and the ratio between the two polymers in the initial mixture influence the swelling degree. It can be seen that all samples show a rapid swelling, which is caused by the sudden penetration of water into the polymer membrane, as well as inside the pore of the hydrogel, followed by a slower swelling to equilibrium. The swelling degree of hydrogel ranged between 141 to 398%. The influence of the crosslinking agent is obvious. With the increase of the crosslinker amount, the swelling degree decreases, fact highlighted both in the case of covalent crosslinker and in the case of the ionic crosslinker. The highest swelling degree was recorded in the case of ionically cross-linked hydrogel, sample 27, because in this case only ketosans participate in the reaction. The swelling degree decreased in the case of covalently cross-linked hydrogel, sample 26, because in this case both polymers participate in the reaction. The lowest degree of swelling was recorded, as expected, in the case of double cross-linking. Mechanical properties of the hydrogels were assessed using a Brookfield texture analyzer. At traction, all samples break very quickly, below 50% elongation. Exceptions are sample 27 and 28, which breaks at 85 and 62% deformation. In the sample 27, which is ionically cross-linked, the transition from elastic deformation at the beginning of the curve to plastic deformation is also observed. The modulus of elasticity is highest in sample 21 and 22, showing that they are the most rigid due to an increased cross-linking density. Both the sample 27, which is cross-linked only ionically, and 28, obtained in the absence of cross-linking agent, show the highest degree of elasticity. If we look closely at the figure, we can see that a higher cross-linking density induced a higher mechanical strength, as expected. For drug loading, hydrogels were suspended in 5 ml ibuprofen solution, 50 mg per milliliter, and maintained under stirring overnight. After 24 hours, the hydrogels were removed from the drug solution, raised with distilled water, and dried in the oven. The amount of drug loaded in hydrogels was calculated by determining the drug content in the supernatant using the UV spectroscopy. For release tests, the hydrogels loaded with ibuprofen were immersed in 30 ml buffer solution at 37 degrees Celsius in a water bath under continuous stirring. Small aliquot of buffer solution were withdrawn at appropriate time interval, and the ibuprofen concentration was determined also by UV spectroscopy using a nanodrop 1 from Thermo Scientific. The ibuprofen release efficiency was calculated as a ratio between the amount of drug release and the amount of drug loaded into the hydrogels. As can be seen from the figure, the release of the drug takes place quite quickly. After 2 hours, all of the loaded ibuprofen was released. The conclusion of the study as follows. Double cross-linked interpenetrated network type hydrogels based on chitosan and polyvinyl alcohol were prepared by both ionic and covalent cross-linking. The obtained hydrogel were characterized from several points of view for the correct correlation of the property with the variable parameters of the synthesis. The surface of the obtained hydrogel has a homogeneous and porous structure. And also the release kinetic followed the same trend as swelling kinetic. Rapid swelling of hydrogels leads to rapid release of the drug from the polymeric network. In the next stage of our project, we aim to test the in vitro cytotoxicity of the obtained hydrogels, the antimicrobial activity, and the irritating potential of the hydrogels. This work was supported by a grant of the Romanian Ministry of Education and Research, the research funding agency, buying E30. Thank you for your attention.